Good evening, everyone. I am your host, Jason Miles, and welcome to another episode of This is Revolution Podcast. If you're new to the channel, welcome. So glad to have you here. If you like what we're doing, please hit like and subscribe. It is a passive gesture that goes a very long way. If you're a returning listener, subscriber, well, you probably see that I'm not in the normal place. And right when I start the show, everybody walks in the place that I'm at. But I am without power for whatever reason at my house. Don't know why. The weather's quite nice, as you can see. There is no rain or crazy wind, but I had no power, and I only have a limited amount of time to figure out how I'm going to do the show with no power. So I got the first thing smoking and came down here. So we're going to do it live. Sadly, we will not be able to do the call-in part of the champagne room. Hopefully, power will be restored by the time I get back, and we can do the call-in show. Maybe we'll do a call-in Red Zone, and maybe we'll do a call-in on Thursday. A quick reminder that this is listener-funded programming here on TIR. We appreciate your viewership and support, for without y'all, we couldn't do this. Just a reminder that because of the uncensored nature of this show, we often get demonetized. So if you have the means and feel so inclined, consider becoming a patron. For as little as $3 a month or $30 for the year, you can have access to champagne rooms. And when I have power, champagne rooms with the call-in feature, and get discounts on live events like the live show we recently did in San Francisco this past Thursday. With all that being said, let's talk about everyone's favorite manosphere influencer, Andrew Tate. A recent article in The Hill titled "A Toxic Society, Not Toxic Masculinity." Try saying that 5 times fast. Not toxic masculinity made Andrew Tate argues that Andrew Tate is less an original provocateur than a symptom of a broader social malaise. According to the author, as economic opportunities contract for middle-class men of all backgrounds, self-styled manosphere figures like Tate offer an alluring vision of a bygone America, one in which office work still meant status, homeownership was within reach, a single salary comfortably supported a family, and wives and children expressed unambiguous gratitude. Yet this rosy portrait of a shining city on a hill, if you will, never existed outside of nostalgic myth. The author of the Hill article notes that over the past 2 decades, popular culture has routinely portrayed fathers as inept buffoons, from Peter Griffin and Homer Simpson to Phil Dunphy on Modern Family, reinforcing the idea that men are comedic foils rather than fully realized characters. I don't believe this is a real trend in television to portray fathers as inept. I do believe that the portrayal of bumbling parents intensified as children's networks such as Disney and Nickelodeon recast parents as playful obstacles to tween heroes. But this has more to do with appealing to a market than it does to trying to influence culture. In reality, every generation has grappled with redefining masculinity in response to societal change. Baby boomers, for instance, were among the first to depict men's public displays of emotion on television. Think of Lionel Jefferson and Meathead and All in the Family. And to acknowledge the psychological toll of war trauma. Moreover, it was members of the boomer cohort, though certainly not all, who spearheaded legal reforms against spousal rape, incest, and other forms of gendered violence, as well as female financial independence, laying groundwork for a more egalitarian society. Thus, while today's wave of manosphere influencers appears to threaten progressive gender norms, they do not inaugurate a novel backlash so much as they reveal the persistent limits of economic and social mobility for working class men. What Tate and his imitators truly signify is not a renaissance of patriarchal power, but the severe constriction of viable futures. Good jobs are scarce, attainable home ownership remains a distant dream, and the traditional family model is portrayed as such is such an over-exaggeration that it treats having a family like having a landline. It's just, why would I need one of those? Just so I can have handcrafted Oreos and another mouth to feed, while feeding my own self is a struggle. Millennials and Gen Z have come of age and amid mounting student debt, precarious gig work, and the collapse of a once solid career pathways. Promoted by for-profit online academies and the promise of social media entrepreneurship, they were born into a 24/7 performance economy where every moment from their inception, with shareable, like things, oh God, sorry, I can't read this. Things like shareable sonogram images to before bed toddler tantrums is commodified, shared, and judged before one can even form coherent thoughts. In this context, Andrew Tate, an avatar of online virility and self-help extremism, resonates powerfully. He epitomizes a generation that has inverted the male gaze onto itself, seeking validation through metrics and memes rather than meaningful collective struggle. Similarly, figures like Ashton Hall, whose ostentatious morning routines and perpetual hustle culture feed aspirational fantasies, underscore that the panacea for precarity is repackaged self-improvement and entrepreneurialism rather than structural reform. In this light, Tate is not the root cause of today's economic anxieties. He is instead a stark indicator of a society in which capitalism rewards ruthless individualism and where young men increasingly search for financial salvation in the very platforms they exploit that exploit their insecurities. To help me discuss this without fumbling over my words that I can't really read that well, is my co-host, my homie, my dog, Pascal Robert. Yeah.
Peace and greens to the audience. Peace and greens to the chat. Peace and greens, Jason Miles.
How are you?
I'm all right.
And also the female voice of reason for the show, M. Toussaint. Unmute yourself, MT.
There we go.
Jesus.
Hi. How are you? Happy Earth Day.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. I'm going to mute you again.
You are literally the worst. Because just so everybody knows, he actually did mute me.
Like, Jesus Christ. I knew you were going to say happy. I knew it. And also, the anchor leg here in this relay race, please welcome from Varn Vlog, C. Derek Varn. Yeah. Oh, you're muted, Varn. I didn't mute you.
Hi. No, you didn't mute me. I muted to make sure that you didn't show up on your own microphone twice.
Uh-oh. Hope not.
Jason only mutes ladies.
Wow. I'm the Andrew Tate of TIR.
There you go.
Oh, wow. Let's analyze that. Let's put that into thought.
He's a passport bro and a podcast
the
bro.
Andrew Tate of TIR.
You said I'm a passport bro and a podcaster?
And a podcast bro.
And a podcast bro. And a passport. Just because I live in a different country, I'm a passport bro.
Yes.
He's only used the passport one time to go to one place. So how is he a
passport? I've used it many times to go to many places. But I don't use it for sexual tourism. Like some people whose name rhymes with ask foul.
You be doing sexual tourism in Florida?
Not at all.
He goes to Cuba all the time. He surfs down to Cuba all the time for his escapades.
He's surfing to Cuba. Really, dude? Really?
He's Elian Gonzalez in reverse.
That's a deep cut. That's a deep cut. That's a reference to 20 fucking years ago.
Jesus Christ. Did she call you Elliot Gonzalez? Oh my God. I didn't know what to expect tonight, and now I know that we're going to start the show off the rails.
Yep.
Let's try to bring it back in. Derek Varn, I asked this question to you and Pascal. Let's see. I have it written down here. To what extent is Andrew Tate's rise driven by economic precarity rather than purely toxic masculinity?
I mean, that's a complicated question. And the reason why that's a complicated question is I don't know that.
That's outrageous.
I'm so sorry.
Y'all are allowed to have serious topics on the show anymore.
Is that what the village is?
Trying to actually answer a fucking question, and you guys just start breaking out because you're laughing at your fucking chat. All right, let's focus. Let's get back in the game.
I'll ask Pascal. I'll ask Pascal first, so we could. He seems to be a little more calm. Pascal, is Andrew Tate strictly toxic masculinity, or is he a symptom of a broken economy, in your opinion?
He's a combination of both. He is the product of the political economy in that young men are looking for someone to lead them out of the economic morass that we are in since the early aughts of the 2008 crash. And even before that, since the deindustrialization has rendered them unable to really provide for ways that men have in the past. And he's toxic masculinity in that he offers nothing but a misogynistic solution of a bygone age where women had no rights and had no answers, or could say nothing. And that's what's being offered up as the good old days for men to harken back to. So it's a combination of both.
Derek?
The reason why I would say it is a combination of both and it's complicated is that some of Tate's audience is so young that it's not even directly subject to the economy. They're indirectly subject to the economy. He's a known figure amongst ninth graders. I mean, I would say a good fourth of my students who are in ninth grade know who he is. But that doesn't mean that it is not totally downstream of the economy in some ways. Male isolation has been increasing in this economy. 1 in 7 men of all classes say that they don't have more than 6 close friends. That includes boys as well. We have seen under socialization in younger Zoomers that actually have led to seeming reactionary opinions being expressed by younger Zoomers. Now, I'm going to put a caveat in that a little bit because the +6 towards conservatism polls for people under 23. We have to remember that millennials twice were predicted to be a fairly conservative generation. Once in 2005, when the millennials about my age are a little bit younger than me. I'm not technically a millennial, I'm a Gen Xer, but a little bit younger than me were coming up. They were predicted to be a moderate conservative generation after 9/11. That didn't stick very long at all. It was completely reversed by 2007. In 2014, 2015, we saw young men supposedly being persuaded en masse by the quote alt-right unquote. But again, didn't seem to have a whole lot of sticking power, and it was mostly in a younger demographic of probably people without responsibilities online. But I do think that there is a sense in which this vision of, say, the family wage and all this is being presented at Andrew Tate, although Andrew Tate's version of it is not just the version of like the subservient, submissive housewife. It is also one deeply tied into more modern sexual conceptions of male promiscuity, etc. And it's basically all the nostalgia for power with none of the virtue constraints of even the imaginary world of the 1950s. So it both appeals to a conservative tendency in people and a libidinous tendency in people. And since public space and social interaction has largely been foreclosed, and this is another economic point here, and people have been increasingly pushed in parasocial relationships to algorithmic streams that are easily manipulatable through ads, often targeting specific demographics. And there is some indication that some of this Tate stuff and people like him actually do target people as young as 13 and 14, boys as young as 13 and 14. That is also a downstream from an economic situation. If we had more open places for people to socialize, particularly young people, that didn't cost a ton of money, you would probably see a little bit less of this. Although at this point, it's hard to know because this is a mutually reassuring feedback loop between technology mitigating sociality. I mean, we're an example of that. There's people pretending we have a community over there in the sidebar. And people in the real world. I don't mean that as an insult, by the way, to your subscribers. That's everywhere. I do it too. But you have to remember that community really does involve observation and interaction and modeling that it's very hard to do in a substantive way in person. And if you've ever taught online, and I partially do, I teach both online and in person, you know how different it is because you start thinking about what you model when you teach that you don't think about because you do it in a social scenario. Whereas when I do, like when I try to teach this stuff online, I have to explicitly teach stuff that I teach by modeling it in person. Well, this is true for the entire social world. So when you make all that expensive to access, and most people's dreams of a family seem impossible anyway, particularly working class people. There's a lot of talking points right now that seem to misunderstand this. That like, this is an upper middle class problem. Or this is a middle class problem. People making more than $50,000 a year have a much higher likelihood of getting married when they have children. They have a much higher likelihood of being in long-term relationships. That's a statistical fact. It's still lower than it was historically, and there still is a loneliness epidemic even amongst them. But this idea that this is mainly aimed towards, kind of white, downwardly mobile white collar people doesn't seem to actually bear that much water. It seems to be aimed at blue collar people and boys. And there's a lot of obvious reasons why that would be a problem. And that very much is tied into economic precarity and shifts in jobs and people entering the job market later, weirdly because of this, even though they don't necessarily have a strong wealth background to stay out of the job market, because it's so much harder to get any kind of job at all that requires any sort of training, even if it doesn't require a college degree.
Would you say, though, that there is, there's a reality that we're seeing less and less, quote unquote, blue collar jobs, right? These tariffs are supposed to bring back magical manufacturing. A lot of people are kind of forced into gig work, if not working multiple jobs on top of gig work.
Well, yeah, this is actually a good question because the stats are misleading.
Okay.
The employment in all of manufacturing is between 8 to 12%, and if that's what you mean by blue collar, then you're right.
Yeah.
The reason why I say that though is you'll see working class and blue collar defined as anyone who doesn't have a college degree, which is about 60% of the population. And that includes gig work, that includes contracting, that includes service sector jobs, which we probably shouldn't think of as blue collar, but they're not quite white collar either. I mean, we don't where do you put a cook, a short order cook, or a Uber driver or a DoorDash guy? That's a much our categories. I mean, even the way we talk about this is very much early 20th century. And as if that, there's still a large part of the workforce that's either in agriculture, which is something like 2 to 3% of the workforce, and in industrial labor, which is 8% if you're not including logistics, and 13 to 14% if you are. And I just looked this up the other day, so I have it fresh in my head. You guys can check me at the Bureau of Labor Statistics for the United States. So, but on the other hand, when we refer to white collar work, we don't think of gig workers. We think of, quote, PMC or lower PMC or teachers or whatever. And I think that makes how we talk about this quite strained. I mean, when you look at the liberal studies on this stuff, they will talk about working class people in the same job as educated people because some have college degrees and thus could theoretically move up, even though they haven't yet and may not. In fact, only about 51% of them ever do, are not college. You'll just see not college education is listed as blue collar or working class. That's not how we as Marxists generally define that. But it's also very confusing because it means you could be talking about people in the same job, and the way liberals are talking about it, one of them is working class and one of them isn't, even though they do the exact same job and may get the exact same pay. So it's the stats are confused. We Marxists usually have to correct the stats for ourselves, and often it's very hard to do. But I will say the economic malaise thing is very real. I mean, we have seen. I think one of the things we can talk about, for example, that may be kind of true for this middle tier, lower middle class person, if we consider like the lower middle class people making between $30,000 and $50,000 a year in contemporary money, is that the wages of entry have gone up in the past 5 or 6 years. So starting wages on average have gone up pretty significantly, but intermediate wages for those kind of jobs, so experience, has not kept pace with that at all. Which means in actual spending terms, when you account for inflation, the middle tier of most labor forces is actually making less, while the bottom tier to attract people into that labor force is making a little bit more. Now, what does this have to do with Andrew Tate? Well, it seems very hard for not fairly well-off men to date. Dating apps are increasingly a grift that are getting more and more expensive. Access to people is getting harder and harder. And when you
Can I
go ahead. Yeah,
I want to add something. I've given up. I'm out. I'm not winning this. But seriously, I want to throw this in there to everyone on the screen, and I would love if Toussaint jumped in first. There's something different that we have with the internet that we didn't have before. As much as we talk about dating apps and how they're kind of rigged to not necessarily work for men, and a lot of men don't find matches, and the guy that swiped 1 million times only had a couple hundred matches. Of that couple hundred matches, he only had one physical meeting with somebody that apparently didn't like him. But bigger than that, would you say that there's also, because we can always create content, that there's content that's created that says pretty much everything you do as a young man is wrong and offensive. Don't talk to me at the bar. Don't talk to me at the gym. Don't talk to me on the street. Don't look at me. Don't acknowledge me. Just stay away. What say you to that,
Don't take me to franchise food.
Don't take me to a franchise restaurant. Your hair is stupid. I'm popping your balloon. Toussaint, last I checked, you are a young lady in the dating world. You've seen these videos as well. What say you to that? Does that aid into the rise of someone like Tate?
I think it's hard to say. Certainly, you've got the economic downturn, and it's hard for anybody to date in a bad economy. I guess particularly for men, if the onus is put on them to pay for the dates, then it's like, how many dates are you going on? I don't know. From what I'm hearing, the women are off the apps. There's a lot of creeps on the apps, and the apps, when they block creepy men, even men that they may not have met, who have said really crude things or sent lewd photos or requested photos, or men they have met who were creeps in person, they try to block them on the apps, but the apps don't actually block those men. So they put them back into circulation. And so a lot of women are leaving the apps. They haven't left already. And my understanding is that the apps are full of bots right now.
There's a lot of bots for men and women. There's a lot of bots on the app.
That's what I'm hearing. I'm also hearing that the men are playing a numbers game anyway. So
Yes.
as Scott Galloway, the incel whisperer 2025, has said, a young man can swipe 1,000 times and only get one coffee date. That's because the man was going to swipe 1,000 times anyway. Apparently, he was also going to like copy paste the same text to anyone that responded to him as well. And so, yeah, a lot of women are just not finding the apps to be a
Well,
good
I mean, it's besides the copy paste. I think it's also an oversimplification of how to talk to another person. I think this is where someone like Andrew Tate comes in, somewhat handy. And stop me, guys, if you disagree. I see a lot of men say the same thing to every woman. You're the most beautiful thing in the world. Oh my God, you're so fine. Because they think that that's how you talk to somebody. And the Andrew Tates of the world are the first ones, because I think he's a derivative of Jordan Peterson, is the first one to come in and say, fuck that. Or the first one in the internet era, right? There was always those matchmaker guys that said, ignore a woman and remember all the
cool guys.
Yeah. What do you call those guys again, Derek? You're muted, Derek.
Pickup artists, PUAs, and they've existed, and they actually incel culture and PUA culture come directly out of each other, and they're both fairly old before Andrew Tate came along. What Tate does is he adds a more aggressive, more masculinist form of Jordan Peterson talk, but it is more aggressive and more masculinist. There's no way around that. So there is a kind of quasi self-help element to this, and I think we do have to admit that, like, people who were in middle school during COVID are under socialized. I mean, like,
I have heard that.
I haven't heard it. I've seen it. So, like, like, I mean, seriously, people who if you try to have a conversation with them in person, they will start to back down. Even before COVID, amongst Zoomers, when I started teaching back in America, when I came back in 2017. I started noticing more and more students who had diagnoses for anxiety, both male and female, who would break down entirely if you asked them to talk to a whole classroom, and we would have to have them do presentations and stuff in private. That's pre-COVID. It is much worse now. And so you have a bunch of, this is like an overdetermined problem. You have an economy that's removed public spaces for young people. You have the cost of dating has gone up exponentially, including things it didn't used to cost. You did not used to have to pay for an intermediary to introduce you to people in your fucking peer group. The experience for women is much worse because of the numbers game, and I mean it is incentivized that way. If you only do high quality interactions on a dating app, as your first gambit, you will never meet anyone. You do have to kind of go through there. Now, one would hope you could come up with more to say, and there are certain apps that are better than others, although even the ones that are better now suck because they all got bought by Match anyway. But like on Tinder, you don't even have enough information to start a conversation other than you're pretty, which of course she's heard 50,000 times because she's getting inundated by everybody playing the numbers game, which means they're going to leave. And that was not how it was when dating apps started. I used dating apps back in 2009, 2010, and it was not like that. Women pursued men pursued women. It was much more equitable, but it was a much smaller place with no algorithm. You were just taking like quizzes and match tests and stuff. That went out the window around 2015. Tinder fucked that up for everybody. Thank you, Mormons. If you don't know the story of Tinder, Tinder comes from Mormons who based something off Grindr so that people at BYU could meet wives. Not joking. That's the origin of Tinder. So all these things come together. Then you start marketing it to middle schoolers who, I don't care who you are as a middle schooler, you have a fucked up view of yourself. So that is prime bait before people have even been rejected. They just have the fear of rejection. Now, I do think there's a bit, like I watched Adolescence, which came out recently. I do think there's a bit overhypeness about the potential violence of these middle schoolers. We haven't seen a lot of middle schoolers killing. young girls like that. What we have seen is mostly in the 20-year-old range, and actually with usually more signs of pathology. But the resentment mongering and hooking people young, that is happening. I have heard 9th graders mention the Pareto principle as applied to dating, which it should never be applied to. It actually doesn't work. They just pulled that out their ass. But who brought that up? That is Jordan Peterson. That is Andrew Tate. That's misapplications of the Pareto principle. So if you guys don't know what it is, that's the 80-20 rule that you hear all about. 80% of things get 20%, like 20% of your effort gets 80% of the results. Well, people just arbitrarily applied that to dating with no evidence. There's no evidence dating works that way. It's just
apparently like that comes from the dating apps. Like those were about the statistics from some dating apps, and they just apply it to life in general, which not a good idea.
I actually don't believe the Pareto equilibrium actually even came from dating apps. I think they say it came from dating apps.
No. It didn't come from there, but those stats from the dating apps kind of match up roughly to 80-20, and that's where the talking point came from. I want to add also real quick, I've heard the dogs are poorly socialized from during COVID as well.
Yeah, probably.
But do you think COVID also helped blow Andrew Tate up too? Because everybody was kind of stuck inside, and there's this guy, just spewing this ridiculous nonsense about not just how to pick people up, but how to be successful as well. And I don't know if you guys feel the same way about this. Do you feel, Derek, I'll ask you because you do deal with younger people more than Toussaint and I, and Pascal as well. But do you feel that young people were kind of sold a bill of goods, especially Gen Z and Gen Alpha, that it is social media that's going to be your key to success? And in that moment, maybe, especially when they're getting about high school age, about maybe the 2010s, that maybe we should have seen a push for socialism. I don't think this idea of socialism sounding viable is just Bernie Sanders. I do think it comes out of the reality that the internet everybody's not going to blow up on it. Everyone can't be an influencer.
Yeah, but everyone can't be anything. I mean, the Pareto rule actually does apply to jobs.
But everybody's trying to be an influencer in a time where, people would have done silly shit like had bands or create art. Now everybody just wants to, talk about it online.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, one, it's easier to fucking do. Mm-hmm. Like you and I, Jason, have talents. Okay. Like, hopefully you make music. I make poetry, I guess, sort of a talent. And I can paint, but you know what? You know what the easiest way for me to get an audience is? To talk bullshit. to act like the smart friend that you wish you had. Right? Like, and like, we actually are friends, and I have made real friends through social media, lifelong ones even, including some people here. But we have to ask ourselves about like how that transfers out. And one thing us as millennials and Gen Xers don't deal with that these students, I say students because I've got my kids in mind, but these young people do, from people 27 before us, we came into the social media world having grown up in a fairly analog world, and we're reaching out to people with niches that we couldn't meet, but we were socialized in the analog world. Like, I had to know how to talk to women to survive. Like, period. And I could see that changing even in my generation, where I would meet people who their primary forms of interaction is as early as the late 90s was increasingly primarily online, or in places where they were dealing with very high levels of social isolation. because they were being exposed to stuff that they could only have access to online. And we also grew up in a time period where porn was easily available, but it wasn't ubiquitously everywhere. And by that, I meant like you would encounter porn when you were walking down the train tracks, and that for some weird reason, people had this weird habit of throwing porno mags by train tracks. I have no idea why, but it was a thing that I encountered more than once in life.
There's also comic book stores.
Yeah, yeah, I guess.
You know, that back room in the video store. I mean, being able to see it on the internet is one thing. Being able to have a cassette is another thing. Being able to see it on your phone,
yes,
I think was the game changer when you had it just there in full color, HD. You know, you could blow it up a little bit. You could see all the holes.
I mean, fair enough. But I do think that also led to people have very unrealistic expectations of the kinds of people they can meet. And they also think that the primary thing that lands them dates is their physical attractiveness, which is important. I am not saying it's not. I would be lying to someone if I said it wasn't. But like, it's more important on a place like Tinder because there's nothing else for you to interact with. All right.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. It's true. It's true. Pascal, what say you to that?
This is all. It's a strange new world. Biracial girl in a biracial world. A whole new world.
Can I say this? You can also interact with their bios, which from what I see, people are taking screenshots of like, you know, grody dudes with ridiculous bios and struggle beards, requesting no fat chicks, no one over 30, must have a job, must go 50-50, but I am supposed to be the provider and I'm the head of the household. A whole laundry list of contradictory things that they want. And it's like, have you seen yourself, bro? That's the name of like a Facebook group. And they just post these bios of
It's called Have You Seen Yourself, Bro?
It's called, there's one called A Man in a Basement Clearly Wrote This. And there's another one.
A whole new
there's a couple. There's a couple. There's one that says the loneliness epidemic, something like these men are not lonely enough.
Well, can I ask you guys this question? And I do think this feeds into a guy like Andrew Tate and his whole kind of demeanor.
Sure.
I think there are people that are afraid to do certain things because of the online backlash, right? I don't want to walk
Absolutely.
up to a young lady because I don't want her to record me and call me an idiot. I don't want to work out at the gym and hold something wrong because someone's going to record me and treat me like an idiot. There's a whole universe of laughing at people that do things wrong. I think that does feed into this tough guy milieu that people like Tate are a part of, because there is part of him that is self-help. Remember when that internet streamer guy that's kind of a douche got beat up by those black kids?
That could be any of a million dudes. Who
And
was that?
I can't remember his name. He was a real jerk, and these kids saw him and they beat him up, and they recorded beating him up. And Andrew Tate volunteered to teach that kid how to fight, so that wouldn't happen again. Like, I do feel that, you know, people are afraid to get beat up. So if there's a guy telling you, hey, look, don't be afraid to get beat up because I'm going to teach you how to fight. I'm going to teach what Philly shell is. I'm going to teach you what, you know, fighting in the clinch is. He's a professional fighter.
When I hear people talk about Andrew Tate's appeal online, these guys will say he is the one who beat the Matrix. He's a fighter. He has money. He has women. Women he doesn't even care about these women. But you know, he has his cam girl empire
Okay,
and he's
isn't
sex
he
trafficking and
a
all
sex
this sort of thing.
trafficker? I mean, is he really a sex
Yes.
trafficker?
Yes, he is.
Yes, it's not a game. He's not doing it for the gram. Dude's not cool. Like, he's the ultimate weird looking cat that kind of blew up, but he can fight and he's got a certain level of confidence, and he's used that confidence in the day and age of the internet to make a significant amount of money and even have a little bit of political power.
Let's be clear. He
And he
didn't
also looks-
entirely come out of nowhere. He is like a failed reality show star guy.
I mean,
He
he's
was
a
kicked off
champion
of-
boxer. He's a champion kickboxer, and he was a reality show guy that got kicked out of Big Brother, I think, within a couple weeks.
because he keeps getting these sexual assault charges. He has them in 3 countries.
So you were saying
being a fighter wasn't giving him enough fame, and he wanted to turn it up somehow. In the past,
I mean, there's all kind of things. You can show your bing bong on fucking TV. You can tweet like Kanye. You don't have to traffic women to get your profile up.
That's true. Although, I mean, we are having a whole lot of trafficking stuff come out lately with a lot of these celebrities. I mean, one other thing I think that we have to like deal with a lot of this stuff is like we talk about he's a fighter. A lot of us know how to fight. Like, I'm a trained fighter, but I am not a trained professional boxer. Tate would kick my ass. Like, he beat me into a bloody pulp. Right? Like, exactly. Like that. So it's not just that he's not a normal person fighter. He's not like somebody you'll actually meet. Unless you hang around an MMA
He's
gym.
an MMA fighter, right?
Not an MMA. He's a kickboxer.
But close enough.
He's a
I mean,
yeah. I'm not trying to do anything with him. Kickbox, grapple, hand jive. I ain't trying to do none of that shit with him.
yeah. I mean, I'm belted in judo and Kanji Kimbo, and I would not touch that shit. He'd kill me. But the average person, I could fight well enough. That's not. But the point is, I think a lot of people have unrealistic visions about what the average person can achieve and get recognition for. Like, people don't really want everybody to be fucking roided out like super boxers. They don't. Like, and I do sometimes wonder. I have wondered about this because as a thoroughly mid guy who is shaped like a potato, I have never suffered for a date, even when I was over 300 and something pounds.
I believe it.
And like, I think that's a lot about having to learn how to be socialized, and we do not create spaces for that for a lot of young men, and so they do fuck up constantly. I mean, even with girlfriend. I remember going to a DSA meeting. I'm probably shitting out this, and the people at said DSA meetings probably gonna figure out I'm talking about them. But like, watching 2 of these young men, fairly attractive men, college educated, the way they were treating their girlfriends at a political meeting on a left wing, I was like, you're going to be single in a month. And of course I was right. But they didn't have, they weren't just douchebags. I mean, they were douchebags, but they weren't like inherently douchebags. They were completely clueless. And so there was this like learned helplessness I saw in them. And I'm not even dealing with Zoomers. I think these guys would technically be like the youngest millennials or whatever. They're probably 30 now. And I remember pulling one of them aside and just be like, don't talk to your girlfriend like that in public. Like, it's not going to go well for you. Like, and everyone being kind of taken aback that I said it. Like, I was trying to shame this guy because I didn't do it in public, but like, people like, oh my God, you told him. And I'm like, how else is he going to learn? Like, you guys all see what he's doing. Why don't you say something to your friend? And there's a fear of backlash and it being treated as bullying and it being made public and shameful and people losing face. And the economy makes that all the more risky because if that happens to you, there's a good chance you also can't get a fucking job. So like,
I've actually seen that happen where a kid got doxxed and he got fired from his job. He ended up losing everything. It wasn't like he was balling to begin with, but he lost quite a bit. So I feel like there's a fear to do anything, say anything wrong. That's why everybody kind of talks so generically. And even when you watch those balloon pop videos, they're extremely generic, even in their insults.
Why do you watch
That?
He loves them.
I
He
love
loves
them.
them.
I do love them. I do love them.
It's,
They make him happy.
it's self-abuse.
Let a
They are
thousand
so
Jerry
trashy.
Springers,
Go
let a
ahead, sorry.
thousand Jerry Springers bloom. Apparently,
Okay, this is what I like about balloon pop shows. That is how dating apps, and I think that's how people treat dating. And we can talk more about this in the champagne room. I definitely want to, because when you hear why they pop a balloon or say no to someone, it's always these reasons that don't make sense. Like, well, you said you didn't want this thing, and I want this thing, and then I just popped my balloon. It's like, well, you don't really know them. They don't really know you. Feelings change over time. I didn't necessarily want kids, and then I had kids. So it's like, things, your feelings about shit change. Your feelings about that person change over time. And to assume that the initial interview, well, you have this kind of shirt on. I don't really like people that wear those kinds of shirts, so I'm going to pop my balloon. It's like, well, fuck, they could change their shirt. Dude. Can you hear me?
It's a lot of what they call BOA, based on attraction. Yes. There's an acronym for it.
The boa never works for me. I've tried to whip out the boa several times.
I just think that the kind of people who expect to find someone in those kinds of environments are not the kind of people that you want to be dating anyway.
Have you seen how fat some of those asses are on that show, Pascal Robert?
Jesus.
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, it's got to be deeper than just a fat ass and a smile, man.
No. I'm just a surface level scumbag at this point.
Hey, that's what I read on the bathroom walls about you. Yep.
No lies detected there. Did it say boa and in parentheses? Boa.
Boa, you need a shirt. This is Captain Boa. I think that there's definitely a rise in people being concerned about narcissism, and you see this floating around online, and people saying social media leads to narcissism. Everybody wants to get likes and all of this sort of thing, and I think from there has come this obsession with red flags. And everyone's trying to spot what's wrong with this other person before I get invested, before I get into a relationship. So that's what some of these dating app bios are about. That's what some of the rejections on the balloon pop shows are about. People they're on alert and they're trying to catch these things super early. A lot of these manosphere dudes, they just kind of walk into it because they have the vocabulary. They'll talk to you, and very early on, they'll start talking about the Pareto principle, 80-20, and BOA, and things like that. And you're like, oh, you're a red pill guy. You're a manosphere guy.
Like, that shit, I see those videos because once you watch one balloon pop video, then manosphere videos will start filtering in, and I actually knew.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
I saw the video of that Ashton Hall guy who kind of went viral for his wake up routine, and he's not the only person to do the wake up routine. That's like a thing that they all do.
Oh man, that Ashton Hall guy he's
What made me mad, Pascal, is because I do push-ups and sit-ups for 17 minutes. Don't look like that. Don't look like that.
What made me mad about his video, and what I sort of thought was funny, was that he is not able to do his morning routine on his own. There's a woman, his woman, helping him. He does the thing with the banana peel. She literally peels the banana for him and hands him the peel for him to do that. all you see are her hands, because you don't need to see the rest of her body. You just need her labor. She puts his shoes out for him so he can step into the shoes. She gives him the bowl of the light. And that's what a lot of these guys want. They want some lady's hand in the background handing them stuff so that they could build their empires.
They want the lady's hand for other reasons too.
That
to shove up their ass like a puppet?
They want their bodies, they want their labor, they want their wombs. They are very dependent on ladies and seem to be obsessed with heterosexual, romantic, sexual relationships, starting families, getting a woman. It's almost secondary to getting a job. It's like, what are you going to do when you get the woman? You need a job, bro.
Do you see the comment on the screen? Maybe it's an assisted living wake-up routine. Oh, why is Varn so sad?
Varn is fully able. He's thinking about that video and he's depressed.
He's thinking about... Do you know who Ashton Hall is, Varn? The black guy that has the... What is the tape on his mouth? I don't understand the tape.
It's on his nose too.
Oh no, I do know what that is. I actually have seen that guy. Yeah, it's that's about
Weird
snoring the
accident.
mouth tape thing. It's it also doesn't work. It's a good way to actually like suffocate yourself if you have congestion at all. But
snoring and stuff.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be for.
The sleep tape.
Forces you to breathe through your nose as long as your nasal passages are clear. But usually your nasal passages aren't clear. That's why the fuck you're snoring in the first place. So that or your tongue is falling back into your throat. Anyway, Varn talks about physiology a bit, but nonetheless, I mean, I find men today to be in a bad way, and I also find that people seem to not be able to talk and chew bubblegum, or walk and chew bubblegum. But talk and chew bubblegum is actually probably more appropriate since everyone won't shut the fuck up about these things. And by that I mean, like, things can be really bad for men and also pretty shitty for women. And in fact, they're in a feedback loop with each other, because increasingly that leads to women distrusting men. I'll give you an example. I watch youth TikTok and Instagram, mostly Instagram, partly to understand what my kids are seeing. So I have like a profile that I've trained to think I'm a 14-year-old. And I've seen them say, people advise women on dating, don't date below your league, because they've been trained to take advantage of you and try to trap you and to be abusive. Now, here's the thing. That is what they're getting from Andrew Tate. And so this is a feedback loop now, where something that wasn't necessarily true is becoming true because it's becoming an assumed practice. And we see this across the board. I mean, dating apps is interesting. Like I said, when I got on dating apps 15 years ago, men asked women out more than women asked men, but not a lot more. I did have women ask me out or approach me. When I got on after I got divorced in 2019, none of that happened anymore. It was the algorithm reinforcing, even in like the woke dating apps, like, OKC, which, you would have to put like your entire politics and put like 3 flags up. And even those actually began once Match took them over to have algorithms that encourage, exacerbated these rules. So when you talk about the 80-20 rule, the algorithm's contributing to that. So it probably is operating by power law. So because the more you get interaction on, the more you are a high value person on a dating app, the more likely you are to be presented to people. So this is a feedback loop, and these things are becoming feedback loops. And I mean, even the way that men and women talk about each other, even here right now, right? We are all doing it. We are replicating the culture we are in, right? Me too. And so, this is something that I think is a big problem for dealing with young men right now who also are, and there's this to take it back to the economy. So they're not just making sex jokes. That's fun. That's cool. But the champagne room exists. To really think about this for a second, where are these boys who are graduating from high school at 18, not going to college and not getting a job? Where are they interacting with even other boys that they didn't grow up with, much less women? Where? They don't go to church. Even the Christian fucking nationalists, by and large, do not go to church. They're video gaming. I can't think of a worse way to train people to meet women than being on a goddamn video game all day. And I mean, and there's a set of incentives here, because you can't buy a house, you can't you can get a job, but it's probably gonna be some fucking Uber bullshit. You're probably gonna be delivering food in your fucking car by yourself all day. Go home, hang out with your two buddies, get stoned. Luckily, they smoke weed and not drink for the most part, statistically. And then play video games all night, because that's a form of interaction, and then get on Twitter and pretend like you're a political badass, whether or not you're LARPing at Stalin or Hitler or Trump or whoever. And, or Elon Musk, get all soy-faced with yourself and get super enthusiastic, stand some OnlyFans girl who probably also isn't making that much money, because all these things have power law distribution problems. So you got people making millions, but the average person doesn't even make enough to buy their food for the month. And I'm not stripping for less than $200 a day personally, but that's just me. Not that anyone wants to see that, but nonetheless, I mean, I guess we could full Monty it, but if you're really into potato dudes, but nonetheless, this is like a weird scenario, and people then pay. I mean, one of the weird things of OnlyFans is not the porn element of it. We've been watching porn forever. It is the parasocial simulation of a girlfriend element of it.
Yes.
Okay, I want to ask you this, Var, because I think you're onto something. Now, if you're correct, and I feel you are, I'm sure Pascal agrees with you, and Toussaint, there is now an AI bot that will chat with you. So what say you to that?
Somebody
Pascal?
said Shannon Sharp.
I'm sorry. I'm yet to believe that AI technology is to the point where horny little boys want to spank their meter off to some AI robot.
Pascal, have you ever talked to an AI chatbot that tells you you're doing good today? That's all I want to hear.
Yes.
I don't need to be sexy. I just need to not suck.
People are friends with ChatGPT. They give them names. My friend, her ChatGPT is British, and his name is Rafe.
Do you know that ChatGPT is saying, please stop saying please and thank you to it because it's costing money for the response?
Yeah, it's an incredibly expensive, stupid waste of fucking energy to use it for that kinds of thing. I mean, the idea that we're now reopening up 3 Mile Island so 19-year-olds can beat off to a chatbot is enough to make me just go dive in a pool of fentanyl, just straight up pool of fentanyl, dead. Jesus fucking Christ. Do you get why there are all these pseudo tradcasts? And I say pseudo because I bet you half of them aren't even catching it and have only been to church twice. But all these pseudo tradcasts after they go through this, right? Because this is a highly alienating way to live. Because the one thing I'll tell you, Pascal, I agree with you on one thing. They probably will beat it off to that kind of being really vulgar out here in the main show, but to that chatbot, but they're not forming a relationship with it. Yes, they'll have friends because they don't know what a friend is, but I've talked to a chatbot. They don't confuse me that they're people. Any more that I think that the OnlyFans woman on Instagram talking about how she's lonely and needs a traditional man while also like having an OnlyFans link in her Instagram profile really likes me. Like, I'm not an idiot, but I don't know that that's true for everybody.
Someone says, Jason, where mine looks cold over here. It just got chilly. I'm in downtown Tijuana, and it is gotten slightly chilly where I'm at. Chilly for a Californian. Spencer Leonard asked the question, how common is passport dating? Well, Spencer Leonard, if I was to walk this laptop just a few blocks that way, I could answer that question for you visually.
Yes.
Literally, once you walk over the border, you arrive in the red light district. Like, ta-da!
But I thought they don't want like red light district women. They want quote unquote traditional women. Yeah.
I mean, she can traditionally fucking work
tell
that
the
meat.
difference.
I think okay. I also think they assume everyone in the country all the women are traditional, and they consider themselves quote unquote traditional men, but they don't talk to these women's fathers. How about that?
And they also don't have jobs, Toussaint.
Not to. They do have passports. They have the might of the Yankee dollar. They also get robbed.
What?
Saw a video of a passport broken.
Don't talk about the might of the Yankee dollar is kind of funny right now. But
Right.
Yep. Please don't say it out loud too much, Marn. My heart was broken today.
You better start getting paid in pesos, friend.
It's coming to that point. It's coming to that point. It's funny. Lady Braga says a lot of those women would consider themselves traditional. Yeah, I think they do things traditionally over there. At least it seems like it.
Hey.
It seems like nice, fine, and neighborly. We're going to continue this conversation even more off the rails in the champagne room.
Can I just add one more point?
Yes,
So
because you're a
I
woman.
found out today that people are celebrating Cinco de Mayo. I forgot what they called it, but it's the anniversary of the death of Kevin Samuels, and so there are feminists online who celebrate it. I know. Yeah.
I mean, I just like to forget him. I don't want to make him more bigger than he actually was.
I know. I know.
I didn't know who he was until I met Pascal Robert.
Is that right?
Yeah, I had no idea. Pascal,
I
you know
was
Kevin
on to him.
Samuels?
I was one of the earliest people onto him, actually.
Pascal is a high value man.
That's why he's surfing to Cuba. Like
Pascal will take you on a $200 date.
Living cool.
A $200 date.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk more about that in the champagne room because I really want to ask you guys about this red flag stuff. I don't like it. I think that's a big problem too. The whole everything's a red flag. You're only going to take me to what's that place that's got real expensive cheesecake? Cheesecake Factory.
I mean, you should not take a woman to a franchise date.
They're there for a reason. What are they there for? After we already meet and get to know each other real well, and she moves in, and I take her to fucking Olive Garden.
Franchise food does not make good first date food.
Look at Look. We're going to a franchise restaurant. Be lucky if we go somewhere we have to pay gratuity. Because I prefer somewhere where you order by number. There's a combo involved.
That's why all the guys want to go on coffee dates and walking dates now.
Well,
What's wrong
also
with
you
that?
go on coffee date. You go on coffee dates to make sure that you're safe. I mean, that's just smart. You don't want you don't like for both parties. You don't like the first date's a
I
coffee
agree.
date and you don't count it as a first date unless it goes well because both people can save face. You just met. You didn't know anything. Like it becomes a first date when it goes well.
Who pays?
Usually the dude. I mean, it's coffee. Like I can like I can afford coffee.
These dudes ain't paying out here. These dudes ain't paying out here.
Maybe I'm
Even when I
old
didn't
fashioned, or
have
maybe
money,
I've been married 3 times. I don't know.
Listen,
Yeah,
Barn,
dude.
I went on a bunch of dates last year and I spent a lot of money. So this year I'm just doing coffee dates, okay?
Just do
That's what
coffee dates. More
That's what
power
the
to
guys
you.
say. That's what the guys say.
Oh, well, you should say it to them. They should pay for the fucking coffee. It's coffee. I mean, I look in a couple of months, coffee may be worth like your house. I don't know, but like,
True.
You guys go Dutch, or does they require that you pay?
I told a woman once that I made really good guacamole at home. I was like, I have this great guacamole that I made. She's like, I don't believe you. I was like, there's only one way if you can find out.
Yikes.
Got to come over.
Did it work?
Yeah,
She loved the guacamole.
Make
I'm
guacamole
worried
on your
about-
bed.
I'm worried about what that guacamole was made out of, actually.
See?
And actually what made it green. That's really kind of scary.
You guys are
She's like,
mean.
are these raisins?
There's a guacamole. Raisins in the guacamole. Well, who would have thunk it?
What a nice surprise. Savory and sweet.
Oh, Tucson. Really? At Tucson? Really?
Pool full of fentanyl. This is where this is all going to end.
Wait, Derek Barn, can you please?
He said, no, you don't clap no cheeks after feeding the woman guacamole.
Yes, guacamole and salsa. And you have your choice of salsas because I make both.
Green and red.
Yes, rojo y verde, pico de gallo, guacamole, right?
You make it with chile de árbol or like jalapenos or what you doing there?
Steve's like, you're
Yes.
doing a lot of work to
If
get
we
me.
don't have roasted chile de árbol, it's no picante.
Steve's like, you're doing a lot of work to not clap no ass cheeks, man.
I mean, sometimes you just want a good bowl of salsa. I don't know.
Do I make homemade nacho chips? Well, of course I do, Sean Moon. You can't just bring her over for fucking regular ass chips that come out of a bag. You gotta be like, oh, I made these earlier today.
You ain't making no homemade nacho chips.
I
man.
do. Tucson, do I make my own chips?
You
Now
do
you got
actually
your
make
thing
your
on.
own chips.
I was about to say, like,
And I make
this...
my own French fries.
Cool.
True.
Make your own French fries. French fries are
I do. If you don't do that, then they're not really homemade, are they?
Do you make your own masa and like get the lye out yourself and get the kamal out and then stone cook those?
I
bad
try.
motherfuckers?
I will say this. I did date a woman when I first moved out here, a very short time, that did that with blue corn. She actually got this blue corn in, and she had the whole big thing, and she made everything in her restaurant. It's an ensenada. Is done with blue corn. It was pretty cool. I really fucked that one up.
I know I was gonna sit you down like I could have had blue corn tortillas every day of my life.
She made blue. It was everything. Was like we do everything. It just Blue corn is my theme for my restaurant. It's like my dream. Yeah, I fucked that one up. I'm single for a reason. Jason is an aspiring trad male wife. I would so love to be a trad wife. If there's any women out there, you don't got to be rich. Can you just afford just ingredients? If you can just afford ingredients, I'll cook you and your fucking evil ass kids some great ass shit. There's a tamale lady coming by. Sorry. The fuck is she coming by on? What is she? Can you guys hear that?
Yes, I can hear it.
Bless you.
That's someone's got a horn on that tamale cart.
Yeah.
She is real. Oh shit. Is she on the corner? Oh no shit. She's using natural butter. Okay, we're gonna see you guys in the champagne room, or maybe I can get away from this tamale lady that is hollering. Thank you guys. Am I gonna see all you guys in the champagne room?
Yeah.
Jawohl.
Alex Marquez says she's selling ice cream too.
Isn't it the wrong time of year for tamales? Like, isn't that like when we were in the north, we only had them in the norteño,
right.
not.
I gotta show. Can you guys see this? It's a big ass fucking.
I see blinding white, like my forehead.
She's got a big ass speaker, like this big, on top of an old ass Corolla.
Wow. She's cool, her.
Damn. Rolling around
hip hop in Mexico.
Like the first ever hip hop concert. Thank you guys so much. It'll be, now that she's gone, it'll be a lot quieter. We'll see you in a little bit in the champagne room. If you want to join us, there's a link in the description wherever you're watching the show. Derek, you want me to give you a champagne room link for your patrons?
Yep, I'll send it to Varnbro patrons too, yeah.
If you are watching on Derek Varn's channel, you can also join us for the champagne room. We will be saying a lot of off-color things. So if you're used to Derek Varn just yelling at you for ideological reasons, now he's going to yell at you because you're acting like a great big wuss. That's a whole different kind of yelling. So get ready for that. They're gonna do some weird multi-ethnic tag team on your ass.
Oh wow.
That didn't sound right.
That sounded very
Pause.
In here, it sounded fine, but here.
Varn has like 17 ethnicities. Pascal only has like one or two.
We'll see you guys in a couple minutes. We are out.